it's Beachcam's Man and Jack from BAM, and in part 2 of this video, Jack discusses the large numbers involved in building such a massive civil engineering project in between the sea and the railway. We look back at the WaveWalker and its role in saving time and money. And we look at the front of the seawall from the beach to see some of our history set in concrete. But first, it's our 10th birthday this month, and to celebrate 10 years of live streaming, you can get a VIP subscription at a ridiculous price on our website. Just head to coastcams.me/10. Right then, Jack, so with a big project like this, you're going to have some pretty heavy stats, so do you want to hit me with some?
Oh, yeah. Where do I start, really? Yeah. So in total, throughout the 3 phases, so phase 1, 2A and 2B, we have key performance indexes where we monitor things like the amount of hours worked, so the amount of time spent delivering a project. We monitor like incidents, all that sort of stuff. So in total, we've delivered around about 1.3 million hours of work.
Okay.
And that's not including phase 4. We had no lost time incidents, so no incidents that have caused anybody to go home from work.
Wow.
Which on a construction site,
That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, when we were working with up to 5 shifts a day, we were working 2 tidal shifts, and we had probably up to around about 120 people on site per day. That's a massive achievement to all involved.
Yeah.
And it just kind of reinforces the level of safety and the level of control that we put into the operations and managing what we do. Hats off to all of the lads and all of the foremen for managing all of the site works.
Yeah.
We've delivered around about 70,000 tonnes of wet concrete into the structure.
Yeah.
So we used Hanson's to supply all our concrete for the region here.
And that's actually beneath where we're walking now, isn't it, on this seawall?
Well, this is wet concrete, yeah. But what we worked with Hanson's to do is to produce a more environmentally friendly concrete.
Yeah.
So what we use is a product called GGBS, which is a product. It's ground granular blast slag, and it basically comes from the steel industry. So, like any steelworks plant, when they're producing steel, they will produce slag, and you can use that slag to put into your concrete rather than cement.
Right.
To create cement has got a lot of embodied energy. It carries a lot of carbon.
Yeah.
It carries a lot of carbon in that embodied energy. What we can do is replace cement with GGBS by around about 90%.
Yeah.
And what that does is it saves 125 kilos of carbon going into the environment.
Right, okay.
Per metre cubed. Now, when you've installed 30,000 metre cubed, obviously that's a lot. That's a lot.
Yeah.
Now, not all of that concrete was low carbon concrete, because some had to have special structural properties and special strength requirements. But around about a third, over a third of it was.
So you used it where you could?
Yeah, so in total, I think we generated around about 2,045 tonnes of carbon saving, which is a lot, extremely large figure.
Yeah.
We've installed and delivered to the project through Shea Murtar over 2,000 precast units.
Yeah.
So they have actually physically moulded and casted over 2,000 units for us. That's inclusive of the footbridge as well, which is largely precast.
They've not all been the same, have they? Like you say, there's been some bespoke ones with the etching in it and stuff like that.
You get different orientations. The seawall changes direction at points.
Yeah.
So as you look down here now, you can see the seawall bending back in on itself.
Yeah.
And you have to create special units with almost corners on them.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of work that's involved with the fabrication process, and especially trying to build as quick as we were building, and how the design was being developed at the time. So one of our big challenges for this project is it's a design and build contract, so all the design isn't in place when you start. For this project, there's probably over 2,000 drawings which have had to individually and bespokely be designed for this project.
Yeah.
There's no like real sort of, you can get a standard detail, but it always has to be amended for this project.
I mean, that's it. Whilst documenting this with you over the past 3 years, I only see the end results.
Yeah.
Obviously, we don't see most of the work that goes on beforehand, which
So yeah, as we're going through that design phase, sometimes the precast supplier is only getting drawings 6-7 weeks in advance of when we need the precast unit.
Yeah.
And obviously that has to go through a rigorous approval process, so it has to be approved by the client, ourselves.
Wow.
And that process itself can take a little bit of time.
Yeah.
So like I mentioned, we've got 4 viewing platforms, 3 viewing platforms, sorry, as we come along the wall, both with Sandringham benches on the left-hand side, and then granite sets in where the communal areas are. And like I say, the fencing is where we've got these viewing platforms to maintain the height requirement, and to allow the members of the public with reduced mobility to look out to sea in these areas. And as we go back down, that happens again at the start and end of the job, where we've created much wider and larger public areas. So, like I mentioned, as we were talking about the visualisations that were put into the station building, as we've come up in levels in this area, we've probably come up 3 to 4 metres here. Yeah. We've covered the existing footbridge, and on the front side of the seawall here, we've replicated the front of the seawall.
About half that's in the ground, isn't it?
Panels, yeah. So as you would come down the stairs previously, there'd probably be about another 8 or 9 stairs that are underneath the concrete now, and you would walk down and turn back at where the old boathouse used to be.
The boathouse.
So for a bit of a memorial to the boathouse, because obviously when we were bringing the levels up, the boathouse would have pretty much been buried in the ground here. Yeah. We've put the grey granite, which is the larger granite you can see around the edge there, indicating where the footprint of the old boathouse used to be. And as we walk down the stairs, and we've also done an artistic impression as you stood looking at it. Yeah. So you have the ramp area back up, and then you can go over the footbridge then. So we've installed a new resin walkway on the floor right the way up through here, and created a new public area. We've also installed the stainless steel handrailing right the way up throughout this section. The old, I'm out of breath. the older one was it was very much life expired, and it had gaps in it.
That's right.
Network Rail are also working or in the process of updating the history information boards right the way around the area to give us some more information on the recent storms, also giving a bit more information on Brunel. And then as you come up then, you can walk into the park itself.
Wow. My first time up here. Oh,
so we've put the existing benches back in place, because they're memorial benches, the 3 benches are. And then we've done some replanting and seeding, so it's got wildflower around the edge, grass around this section here, and then we've improved this in here because it was very, very tired.
It was worn down, yeah. Is that new fencing as well?
Yeah, new fencing all the way around the edges just to make it a bit safer.
Yeah, because the fence was, not safe before.
Not at all. Again, some bit more replanting on the left-hand side. And we've tied the levels a bit better back into the existing up there. Yeah. This isn't a DDA compliant ramp though. For us to install a DDA compliant ramp in here, it would have basically meant that we have to take Pocket Park out and just create a ramp and a staging system in here because of the levels. Yeah. And also, if we did put a ramp in here, when you get to the stairs and down onto the bridge, you've still got the problem with the stairs on the other side. Yeah. Yeah. So we agreed with the local council not to put a DDA compliant in here and Network Rail. So the seawall itself has a design life of 100 years. Which is what Network Rail class as being a resilient project. So everything that we have to design has to be designed to withstand that 100-year design life, which is why we use A416 stainless and a lot of concrete. Yeah. People ask why don't we build the wall in the traditional way out of stone, but you can't put design numbers to it these days. No. There is no design code you could use for that wall to withstand the sort of loads that are imposed by the sea. Yeah. So where you've got the bridge in the distance over there,
Rockstone Bridge, yeah.
Yeah, back on Storm Kieran, the seawall, some of the existing seawall, the copers were actually flipped off. Yeah. You know, those copers weigh 4 tons. Wow. So again, we've got some more seating created by the existing wall. That wall's basically been moved probably 4 metres from where it was. We just cut it into sections.
Oh, so that's from the railway side there.
Yeah, cut it from sections and rebuilt it there. All granite sets in this area as well, and then we go back down the staircase, or you can go back onto the existing seawall. And like I say, before this was here, this is probably 5 metres higher than what it was before, and it allows you to access right the way down into Dawlish Warren now, without any issues with regards to mobility. As you come down here then, you've got the access back down beyond Coast Guard's breakwater, down towards Dawlish Warren and Red Rock. On the wall behind us then we've got the artistic impression of Coast Guard's building. So basically from where I am stood now, looking at the boathouse, that would be what you would have seen.
Yeah.
So we had an we had a photograph survey done from here and a coordinate survey, and we basically mapped it onto the precast unit.
Wow.
Again, another beautiful finish from
Yeah,
really.
I just love things like that because, you know, it didn't have to be done, but it's just nice that the history's kept there.
Yeah, definitely. I can show you this one actually.
How's the tide going out?
Yeah, so the staircases themselves, they always amaze me, to be honest with you. The same with the staircases on the opposite side of
Phase one.
marine parade breakwater.
Yeah.
The staircases themselves actually go down another 3 levels,
Yeah.
so it gives you an idea of how deep this is actually into the ground.
And how much the beach moves all the time.
How much the beach moves, yeah. So I've seen it where the stairs are completely exposed, and I've seen it where the stairs are completely covered up, and you've got sand going up into the top platform.
Yeah.
I think in total, we were looking at 1, 2, 3, 3.5 blocks there, and in total this is 7 blocks high.
Yes.
Not including the recurve unit on top, so we're only about halfway from where the foundations start.
Yeah.
And then the foundations for this go down, and this is actually on piles which go 20 metres into the ground.
Wow.
And then you've also got the...
So what's that? We're looking at what, 3-4 metres there? 4 metres?
There's a metre blocks, yeah. So
Metre
3.5
blocks, okay.
metres, yeah. So 7 metre high wall, and then the recurve unit.
And then
you've got
another 20 metres underground.
underground, yeah. So these piles here, again, they were installed different methodologies to the face and panel piles.
Yeah.
And that was because the WaveWalker couldn't get
Couldn't
closer
get
to the
yeah,
breakwater,
okay.
yeah. And then all of the face and panels which support all of the precast units going down in this section were installed with the WaveWalker, which was probably my favourite piece of kit I've used in construction.
Yeah. Well, it's mind-boggling, the size of it. I mean, the photos and the video just don't do it justice.
So that was a 42 metre by 42 metre self-propelled jack-up barge. So when I mean self-propelled, it was able to walk itself through the sea. And I know you've got some great footage of that you're going to put over there.
Yeah.
So on there it had a 42 metre lattice boom crane, and it had another high ab crane on there, so we were able to lift the materials on and off as we needed them to install the piles. And then we essentially did pimp my ride on the WaveWalker. That's the best way I can describe it. So we used our own internal temporary works team, and traditionally with the WaveWalker you would drill or you would do cable jointing out at sea through the middle. They call it a moonpool cover through the middle of the WaveWalker, because of how the operating rams walk on the WaveWalker and how it moves. And what we had the challenge with doing is suspending a 112-ton piling rig, which is the machine used to drive the piles into the ground, over the side of the WaveWalker without interfering with those working parts.
Wow.
So we created a big cantilever, we welded it to the deck, we strapped it to the deck, we put hooks on it so it couldn't flip over as part of the temporary works design. And then we put the piling rig on top, and then that was how we installed all the piles along here. So that really was... That had huge benefits in terms of the way we were able to construct the seawall in this area, because we didn't have to excavate large volumes of rock. So if you can imagine the WaveWalker, the bits that slide along, we call it the draft, which is basically the amount of vessel which is underneath the water. And I think that vessel had around about a 6 metre draft.
Yeah.
So for that to float without hitting the ground, it needs to have 6 metres of tide, which you just don't get in this area.
No.
So if we were to use a traditional jack-up barge like Network Rail used to do the repairs over in that section, we would have ended up having to basically completely remove the beach in this section.
Right.
So
it would have taken a lot longer to get the piles in as well.
And the cost of removing the beach and the rock over here, and you don't want to be removing rock because that is what protects you ultimately. Yeah. The rock will erode naturally over time. The sand protects that rock, and that's the way we like it left to be kept.
Yeah, of course.
We don't want to be digging it up.
No.
We probably would have had deeper piles and deeper facing panels if we were to do that. And again, that would have cost more money. And the time that we saved doing
Absolutely, yeah.
And because we were able to use that WaveWalker and move it around regardless of the tide, because it could walk where it wanted to, regardless whether the tide was in or not, we were able to improve on our output per day from, it probably would have been a pile a day, up to 9-10 piles a day.
Yeah, incredible.
And it took a lot of risk out of the programme because we weren't relying on tugs to move the vessel around. It could just walk wherever it wanted, and we bring a tug in at the end, and we remove it with a tug at the end, at the start, and we remove it with a tug at the end.
Yeah, incredible.
So behind us, I stop yapping about the WaveWalker. I get too excited.
It was our favourite bit, isn't it?
We've got the artistic impression of the Coast Guard's bridge. So we probably need to be about 11 feet taller for it to actually scale
looks great
into the
from out at
footbridge.
sea.
Yeah, but when you look at it from out at sea and when you look at it with the drone, you can really appreciate the work that's gone into that and aligning all of that up. And then in total, I think this section of the seawall going back down to colonnade breakwater is around about 415 metres.
Yeah.
So if you can imagine, a block or a facing panel is about 2 metres in width. We've got about 200 of those as you go down, and 200 recurves to suit it, approximately.
Impressive.
The little black holes that you can see, that's all the promenade drainage.
Yeah.
So with the promenade drainage, any kind of rainfall or any overtopping that does make its way into the promenade, the gradients basically divert it back this way and they come out the little black
Those little holes, right. So
yeah.
the large holes are from the platform drainage?
Yep.
And the little ones from the promenade, right. Okay.
Yep. So for me personally, there's been a lot of learning curves for me on this project. Working in the tidal environment to begin with was one of my challenges. I didn't really appreciate how the tide fully worked.
No.
I mean, I knew it happened twice. There's a low and a high tide twice a day, but I never realised you would get the difference in access like you do dependent on that tidal cycle.
Yeah.
So, developing a system that enabled us to track where we could and couldn't work dependent on different tide types was a bit of a learning curve for me. Obviously, the interface with all of these different constraints. So when I talk about constraints, I talk about the railway environment, the marine environment. We've then also got the issues that we're working under a marine and maritime licence, which has to be in place before we start work. We have to have the planning conditions signed off and all the planning approvals in place. We've got the design constraints. We've got temporary works constraints around working adjacent to the existing wall. The site itself is a triple SI because of the geology of the cliffs. So a triple SI is a site of special scientific interest, or one combination of the words. I always get the combination of the words mixed up. But that protects the geology of the cliffs, and if you're working adjacent to a triple SI, you have to have consent from Natural England.
Okay.
You've then also got the environmental agency, which is the stakeholder. You've got 3 councils that we're working with, which is Dawlish Town Council, Timbridge District Council and Devon County Council. And they all own and maintain different assets. So one would own the roads, one would own the public footpath and the public rights of ways. And then you got Dawlish Town Council, who we would keep informed just in terms of the community. So community engagement was a big problem for us before you came along, to be honest with you. And that's what I've really enjoyed, because a complex civil engineering project like this, you don't often see what goes on behind closed doors.
No.
People see a hoard and
people just see the inconvenience. So I think it's really helped for us to show, the progress as it's happened over the past years, and it's made people understand what you guys have been doing.
But no, it's been really positive for us to share what we've done, and BAM see it as a positive step in the right direction towards community engagement, and they appreciate the work that you've also done for us as well.
Indeed. So you've also won some awards. Now, I didn't know there was such a thing as a concrete award. So tell me about this. I didn't even know these things existed. And that was for this section, wasn't it?
Yeah. So the project was shortlisted for the ICE Southwest Awards. So this was phase 2. And we won the best re-engineered project over £8 million. Right. And we also won the Showcase Award. Now, I think we won the Showcase Award purely because of you, to be honest with you.
Okay, fair enough. Where's my plaque?
No, but at the time, the judges actually commented on the level of engagement which we had with the community. And we've also been shortlisted for the Concrete Society Awards, the Devon and Cornwall Concrete Society Awards.
Wow. So these are things I've never heard of before.
That's where people appreciate concrete and what you can do with it. So the architectural finishes, the different touches of heritage that you can put into a product. Concrete doesn't have to just be plain faced and grey like this, although that was what the planning officer wanted. You can do a lot with it. You can change the colour of it. You can change the shapes of it. You can
etch history into it.
You can put fascias on the front of it like we have done with the cladding. All that sort of stuff. So lot to take in for me moving on to the next project. Now the next project is cliff works. Like I said earlier, it's completely different to this. So it's another learning curve again about putting people and working over the railway with drilling equipment.
That's right. You're doing it while the railway trains are still running, aren't you?
Yeah.
Right then, Jack, well, thank you for a very informative tour. You've managed to get, what, 3 years into...
Well, I've tried to, yeah. I do just waffle at times, so I don't actually know what I've said.
That's all good, yeah. Well, it's very informative. So if you've enjoyed this, you must subscribe to our channel, because then you'll see the following video, which will be phase 4 in the coming weeks, where Jack takes us over the cliffs. And give it a like and a share, and we shall see you soon. Thanks for watching.
Thanks again.